Hey y'all, it's Bethany. Welcome back to my channel, Bethany Brings Books. Really excited to do this tag today. I have been tagged by Chrissie over at Chrissie's Purple Library. She has a new channel, Bookstagram. Booktube. She has a Bookstagram too. But she has a new Booktube channel called Chrissie's Purple Library, and she is really funny. She would just make you laugh, and she tagged me in this video, the telephone book cover tag, I think is what it's called. Trying to figure out what my cat's doing. Stormy, what you doing? She's over there scratching something on my shelf. But anyway, so the telephone book cover tag, I think is what it's called. So the concept of this is like the game of telephone. You whisper something in somebody's ear, and then they would whisper it to the next person in line, and they would whisper it to the next person in line, and by the time it got to the end, it was completely different than what the first person in line whispered. So that concept of this is that I build off, so when Chrissie did the tag, her last book, I have to build off of that book, the cover, and find something similar in one of my books. And I just do that I think the tag says to do like 10 books, which is what I did. And just try to find similarities between the covers, and just kind of gives off the same vibes, I guess, or something to connect the covers of the books. So this sounded really fun, and Chrissie, she did a great job with hers, and it was funny, and she made me laugh. And she did a fun video. I think I've seen Amanda at Book Lover Amanda has also done this tag. I'm not sure who else has, so I'm going to tag some people in the end, but I'm going to have to do some research and see who's done it and who hasn't. But it is a fun tag. It was a little bit difficult. When I first started, I was like, okay, this is not going to be hard. I don't think this will be hard. Then it was like, trying to find the first book. I was like, okay, never mind. This is hard. And then, like, the middle books, I kind of was able to roll through it pretty quick. And then the last book, finding the last couple books was hard again. So it took me a while to get ready for this, but it was fun. I think I have a big variety of books, and honestly, I think I did pretty good with it, y'all. I feel like I did. Shout out to myself. But it was fun, and some of these, it was fun connecting them. So let me know what y'all think about it, and if there's any of these books that I talk about that y'all have read or would like to read, just let me know in the comments. But anyway, we are going to get started with the telephone book cover tag. Also, before I do get started, thank you, Chrissie, for tagging me, and thank you for watching my channel. I'm so excited to have new people commenting and letting me know that they're watching. It's fun talking about books with y'all, and just life in general, some of the things that God is doing in my life and doing in each of y'all's lives, and I'm excited about it. Okay, so the first book that is going to be up here on the screen, I don't have a copy of, but it was the last book that Chrissie chose, and it was called Sandstorm by James Rollins, I think is correct. I have never read it. I don't have it. But I read the synopsis, and I think it's basically involving like archaeology and antiquities and like Indiana Jones vibes. So I looked and looked. It had a lightning bolt on the middle of the cover, or it has a lightning bolt on the middle of the cover if you can see it. Looked and looked for a book with a lightning bolt. Couldn't find anything. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to find something with like archaeology vibes. So, from the Cooper Kids Adventure series. So this is like an archaeology series, I think. Actually, I've had these for a while, and I just haven't read them. I just saw Holly from Lovely Day with Holly talking about them, where she had just recently read them. Jay and Lila Cooper have been on adventures with their archaeologist father before, but nothing like this. They can't help thinking about the other exploration parties that tried to open the door. All fled in panic or died terrible deaths. What really lies behind the door? Incredible riches from a lost kingdom, or some ancient evil? So that sounds like a fun read, especially for kids. Oh, this was published in 1985. This book is older than me. The dedication in the front is to the kids at Cedar Springs Camp, 1983. Okay, so that's how it started off. Then I decided to go with this fire theme on the front. If you can see, they're holding a torch. I found this book on my shelf, Christmas at Charlton by Tamara Alexander, and in the windows you see all of these candles. This is such a pretty book to me. It looks so cozy, Christmas, like Christmas morning, wintry, all the feels. Just super cozy. Haven't read this one either. I found this one at the Goodwill store, apparently, because there's a sticker on it. And this one is about, it says, recently widowed Aletta Prescott struggles to hold life together for herself and her 6-year-old son. She discovers an advertisement for the Women's Relief Society auction and applies for a position, only to discover it's been filled. Then a chance meeting with a wounded soldier offers another opportunity in friendship. Captain Jake Winston, a revered Confederate sharpshooter, suffered a head wound at the Battle of Chickamauga. When doctors deliver their diagnosis, Jake fears losing not only his greatest skill, but his very identity. As he heals, Jake is ordered to assist with a local Women's Relief Society auction. He respectfully objects, kowtowing to a bunch of crinolines isn't his idea of soldiering, but orders are orders, and he soon discovers this group of ladies, one in particular, is far more than he bargained for. So I think this is like, Tamara Alexander has a series, I think, that is set in Charlton. She has like some books, and so I think this one is kind of a novella, but it's not super, it's like that. It looks really good. I've read Tamara Alexander. I read a series, her first series that she ever wrote, I think, years ago. I read that one and I really enjoyed that one. I haven't read anything by her lately. I know lately she's been doing a lot of Civil War stuff, which I've not read a lot of in a while. It's just not been something that I've read much of lately. But I've heard a lot of good things about her writing, and I have quite a few books by her that I do want to pick up. And like I said, I did enjoy the first series that she did. So I went with this house on the cover for the next book. I wanted to find something that had like a big brick house or building. And y'all, this is what I found. Now y'all can't tell me that was not a good job now. That was good. Like, I did good with that one. I almost gave up. I actually couldn't find anything with a brick house to start with, so then I was going to go with the snow, and I found another book with like snow on it. Then I saw this one while I was like looking through after I had already picked the snow one, and I was like, okay, I've got to go back and change this around and use this one. So this is actually a courthouse on the front, but it looks this like red brick with the big Greek columns. This is Murder at the Courthouse by A.H. Gabbert, a Hidden Springs mystery, and I think this is like a cozy mystery. I have not read this. I started it one time. Me and my husband, like, for a while, we would sit in the bed and like I would read at night. read a chapter. We did that off and on, like with several different books. And we started on this one, and I never finished it, but it seemed interesting, so I would like to read it. Michael Keene's stressful days as a Columbus police officer are done. He's ready to relax into his new position as deputy sheriff in his sleepy hometown. Nothing ever happens in Hidden Springs, Kentucky, until a dead body is discovered on the courthouse steps. As Michael works to solve the case, it seems that every nosy resident in town has a theory. When the sheriff insists Michael check out one of these harebrained theories, his surprising discovery sends him on a bewildering search for a mysterious killer that has him questioning everything he has ever believed about life in Hidden Springs. So this is actually a series too. This is the first one, I think. Yep, book 1. Sounds fun. And so this one, I was like trying to figure out what I could do, and it has a cat on the cover right here. So I thought I'll try to find a book with a cat on it. And I thought for a little bit, and then I thought about the Mandy series. So if y'all ever read the Mandy series, you know that every book has her cat on the cover. She has a cat named Snowball, I think is its name. Set in the early 1900s by Lois Gladys Leopard. And it's set in like the North Carolina mountains. I enjoyed reading this series when I was young, and I never read all of it because I didn't have access to all of them. I just had like some of them, but I did enjoy reading it, and I have quite a few now that I would like to read. I've been reading several of them, working my way through it. I think in the first book, her father has just died, and she was living with her father and her stepmother, and her stepmother was not a kind lady from what I remember. And so her father dies, and then a Native American man comes like right after his burial and tells Mandy I believe he helps her back to find her uncle who lives like somewhere else in North Carolina in a big mansion, because I think her father was partially Native American, I think is what the story is. So anyway, she's like friends with the Native Americans, and there's one in particular that's really a good friend of hers that I believe she calls him like uncle, or maybe not uncle, but anyway. She goes to this mansion, and she ends up moving in there, and just there's a whole story behind it. And then the following books each follow her and her friends as they go on different adventures and solve little mysteries. So there was that one, Mandy and the Midnight Journey. I wanted to go off of the midnight theme. I thought immediately of a book by Joanna Davidson Politano, which I did not use that one because I had a better idea. So, Mandy and the Midnight Journey, and the book that I'm currently reading, Midnight's Buddingmorrow. Y'all, like, I was able to work in the book that I'm currently reading. How cool is that? I was like, oh, I gotta do this. I had totally forgotten that that this book had that in the title, and my immediate thought was Joanna Davidson Politano's A Midnight Dance, I think is what it's called, A Midnight Dance. Then I came over here to get it, and I saw this laying on my bed, and I was like, oh, I can use that, the book that I'm reading. I can use it. How cool is that? Like, did I really just do this? Y'all, I think I've got to win some kind of award. I mean, for real, I think that was good. I think that was good that I was able to work in the book that I was reading. For real though, I am currently reading this, and I am about, I would say 60% done. I don't have much left. This is by Carolyn Miller, Midnight's Buddingmorrow. This book, it's going to be interesting to discuss it when I'm finished with it, because it's different than some of the Christian fiction that I've read. A lot of deeper themes, very moody, and I don't want to say dark because it's not dark in like a evil way, but it has a lot of sad tones to it, I guess, because it's very clear that the main character, after some things happen initially, she's going through depression now. Anyway, I'm not going to say a lot about it here because I don't have time in this video, but it is good and it has definitely made me cry. It has some things that really tugged at my heartstrings and made me cry. And I can really connect with the main character because of some situations that happen. You can tell just her thought process and the way she's acting at this time. You can tell she's depressed, and I've been there, and I've walked through that with someone I loved, with my husband. So anyway, connecting with this book. Sorry, I know that went a little bit maybe a little bit more depressing than what I intended, because this is like a fun tag, so I don't want it to be depressing, but I can't wait to talk about this book with y'all when I finish it. But so this cover is so gorgeous to me. It's very dark, but you see like light in the distance, like hopeful. But anyway, what I decided to go with was this dress. She's wearing this long white flowy dress, so pretty, and she's looking off into the distance, which I thought fit well with this book by Elizabeth Camden, To the Farthest Shores. We have a lady on the front looking off into the distance across the ocean with this long flowy dress, and it's like a pale blue. This is my favorite historical fiction author. I love Elizabeth Camden's writing. I have talked about her over and over again. This is one of her books that I have not... back when I first started reading her books, this was one that I think I checked out from the library and maybe read a little bit in. And I didn't really get into this one as much as her other ones. So I found it recently on Book Outlet, I think, and I ordered it because I do want to read it. It says, the unpredictability of her upbringing prepared Army nurse Jenny Bennett to face any challenge at the Presidio Army base. But the sudden reappearance in her life of the dashing naval officer who broke her heart 6 years ago is enough to rattle even her. Lieutenant Ryan Gallagher is one of the few men in the world qualified to carry out a daring government mission overseas, an assignment that destroyed his reputation and broke the heart of the only woman he ever loved. Honor-bound never to reveal where he was during those years, he can't tell Jenny the truth, or it will endanger an ongoing mission and put thousands of lives at risk. They come back together, and there's that struggle between them with his secrets and her hurt over his departure years ago, I think. So anyway, To the Farthest Shores by Elizabeth Camden. So from there I went with Whose Waves These Are by Amanda Dykes. We have The Farthest Shores with all of these waves on the front, and then Whose Waves These Are, Amanda Dykes. This book I have read. I read it a library copy, and then I found this one at Ollie's and picked it up because this book is so good. I gave it 5 stars. Amanda Dykes is one of those authors in Christian fiction who she is pretty new to the Christian fiction world, and her writing is so different from anyone else in this genre, or like the realm of Christian fiction. She has just a beautiful, flowery, lyrical prose, and her stories, I don't know, they're just kind of magical in a sense. Like they feel kind of magical and not fairy tale-ish, but I don't know, how do you describe it? Kind of fairy tale-ish, but not fairy tale-ish, magical, otherworldly. I don't know, none of that makes sense, but just the way she writes and the stories she tells, and her books always have good quotes in them. This one, there was a quote that I took a picture of, and I remember telling my husband about it when he was going through a whole lot of things, and there was just things that we were facing together as a couple, and I remember telling him this quote. It's two of the characters in the book, and one of them is telling the other one that one of his, I can't remember which character tells which one this, but they tell him that a relative of theirs, I believe, always told them that when everything feels broken, then it's time to unbreak some things. I think that's the quote. When everything feels broken, then that's when it's time to unbreak some things. I hope I'm getting that quote right. That was the gist of it. And I connected with that quote so much because it was like, I don't know, just really, I felt it deeply inside of me. When everything is broken, then it's time to unbreak some things. And I was like, man, that's what Jesus does for us. He unbreaks us, you know? We are broken. We are shattered. We are so full of sin and hurt and sorrow, and he comes and he takes us up and he unbreaks us. And sometimes he has to break us to unbreak us, if that makes any sense. But man, that quote from this book, it got me. So that is all a side rabbit trail, and I'm sorry if this got a little bit deeper than what I intended for this video to go. But this book, it is so unique. It is a dual timeline, World War II and 2001, I think. And it's just, I don't even know. It's just, you need to read it. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. In the wake of World War II, a grieving fisherman submits a poem to the local newspaper, a rallying cry for hope, purpose, and rocks. Its message: send me a rock for the person you lost, and I will build something life-giving. When the poem spreads farther than he ever intended, sorry y'all, I don't know why this just, I read this actually before my husband died, and now as I'm reading the back, I'm thinking about all the memories from this book and what happened with the rocks, and just how different people send rocks in memory of a loved one they lost in World War II. Like, through the years, they send rocks to this man, and he begins to build something out of it. Anyway, sorry, that was unexpected. Anyway, sorry y'all. That was unexpected. I wasn't expecting to cry over this, but reading the back just brings back a lot of memories from the book. I need to reread it. When the poem spreads farther than he ever intended, Robert Bliss's words change the tide of a nation. Boxes of rocks inundate the harbor village on the coast of Maine, and he sets his calloused hands to work. Decades later, Annie Bliss is summoned back to Ansel by the Sea when Grandbob, the man who gave her refuge during the hardest summer of her youth, is the one in need of help. But what greets her is a mystery, a wall of heavy boxes hiding in his home. Memories of stone ruins on a nearby island ignite a fire in her anthropologist's soul to uncover answers. So again, this book is just so, it's in a sense magical and mysterious and unique, and it definitely will make you cry, I think. Made me cry, and just reading the back cover has made me cry again thinking about it. Very heartwarming, and it is a good book. To the end, from whose waves these are, there is a lantern on the front of this, so I decided to try to find something with the lantern, like this. So we have a Nancy Drew, the Ghost of the Lantern Lady. Who better to have a lantern on the cover than Nancy Drew? I was like, I know there's a Nancy Drew book with a lantern on the cover. So I googled it and I found this one, and I had a copy of this one. I've actually read it. Ghost of the Lantern Lady, Nancy Drew. This is number 146. This is from like a series that was published in the 2000s, I think. 90s and 2000s. I think it was mostly the 2000s. So Nancy is going to a historical pioneer village living history museum from the 1830s. There's a lot of weird things going on, and people are talking about seeing the Lantern Lady, which is like this lady in all white carrying a lantern. In typical Nancy Drew fashion, we have her solving a mystery involving sabotage. So for this one, I wanted to go with, I was thinking that lady, how it says on the front, the Ghost of the Lantern Lady, and like the lady theme would be something good to go with. So I chose Lady Jane Disappears by Joanna Davidson Politano. This is another one of my favorite authors. Her and Elizabeth Camden are my two top historical fiction authors. She's another author who writes very different Christian fiction than typical. She writes historical, and it's very, just her writing style, I don't know, I just love it. She always has some type of a mystery going on, and this one I haven't read. It was on my TBR cart, and it's got all these, like, this dark cover, dark theme, like the cover looks dark. It says, when Arlie Harcourt's father dies suddenly, he leaves her just two things: his famous pen name, Nathaniel Droll, and his wealthy family, who want very little to do with her. As Arlie struggles to find a home with her father's family and learn the rules of society, she relishes in his parting gift, the beginning of his last story. The story she always wanted to hear about her mother's mysterious disappearance from the home where she now lives. To complete the novel, she'll have to extract clues from relatives and one enigmatic house guest who often seem reluctant to give them up. So, this book I'm sure will be good, just like all of Joanna's other books that I've read. Okay, I opened this up, and then this quote was what I immediately seen. I got to tell y'all, read this to y'all. Someone in the book, I don't know, says, I admit I'm an escapist when it comes to books. I become drunk on story, on words, as a buffer against reality. If only she knew how often. If books were alcohol, he'd be the worst drunk in history. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. But there it is, y'all. So, this is the book I was going to end on. However, when I got over here and started counting these books, I only have 8 books. I had added another book to the stack that I had wanted to use, and then I ended up replacing it with a different book. Didn't realize when I was counting that I had added that one. So, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 9 books. So, I'm going to make this work, y'all. I'm going to make it work. After all my bragging I said about how good I did on this video, we're going to make it work. This book is the one I'm going to end with, Shadow of Doubt by Terry Blackstock. So I know they look very different, but we have the title, Shadow of Doubt, and this book is dark and shadowy. Lady Jane Disappears, Shadow of Doubt. We have, with disappearances, there's doubt and shadows and all of those vibes. So I'm gonna make it work. It's gonna work. So it fits. Even if the covers don't look super similar, they have those same vibes. Shadows, disappearances. Y'all, I shouldn't have bragged. No, it was all in good fun. But anyway, Terry Blackstock, Shadow of Doubt. This book has no blurb on the back. Yeah, I've read it before, but I like having a book blurb just to refresh my memory when I'm trying to describe the book. Anyway, this book is the second in Terry Blackstock's Newport 9/11 series. I read this when I was young. I loved this series. It stuck with me for years. The first book I said was my favorite book for a long time growing up. In my opinion, it's the best series that she's written. This one we're following a detective named Stan, who is married to, what's his wife's name? Allie. And Allie is accused of trying to murder him. Her first husband passed away, and she's been remarried at this point. Like when it opens up, she's remarried to Stan. She's already remarried. They've been married for several years. Well, he suddenly gets sick, and when he's in the hospital, they realize that he has been poisoned, and so immediately suspicion goes on her because of her first husband's death. I can't remember if his death was mysterious, but anyway, suspicion is immediately cast upon her, and so we follow just these relationships. There's a close-knit community. We have like the fire department and the police department, and just so many in this community that are close-knit. And Stan, of course, doesn't believe his wife would do something like this to him, and he's frustrated with his coworkers because he's sick, and they're looking at her suspiciously, and it follows that whole storyline. It's really intriguing to me. I enjoyed it a lot. This is the book that y'all, whoever I tag, this is what you gotta go with. They've got this nice little like an EKG reading on this, Shadow of Doubt by Terry Blackstock. Another book that I would definitely recommend reading. So anyway, y'all, this tag was super fun. It turned out a little bit different than I expected. Did not expect to cry while filming it at all. That was totally unexpected. So, sorry if some of this was depressing. I don't try to be depressing. I try to be open and just kind of go with the flow as far as if I feel like there's something I need to address, talk about it and just share my experience. But anyway, thank you, Chrissie, for tagging me, and I had a lot of fun with it. Thank y'all for watching. See y'all next time. Bye.